Welcome back to Scales and Tails. Today, we're talking about how much reptiles really cost. It's not just the reptile that's the most expensive. It's everything else. Let's break it down. The biggest upfront cost is the setup. For reptiles like bearded dragons or leopard geckos, you need a properly sized enclosure, not something tiny or temporary. They need room to move, climb, and regulate their body properly. Then it comes to lighting, and this is huge. You need a heat lamp and proper UVB light, a long tube, UVB, and not a small coil bulb. UVB isn't optional. It supports bone health and calcium absorption. These are the heat bulbs you want, not red, black, moonlight, or whatever. As long as it's bright, white light, they'll thrive. Once you've got the enclosure down, you need to put something in it, like substrates, hides, climbing structures, decor, food bowls, water dishes. Reptiles need enrichment, not just empty space. When you add everything together, the initial setup can easily reach a few $100s, depending on the species and quality of products. Sometimes the reptile itself is actually the cheapest part of the whole setup, and that surprises a lot of beginners. Quick tip. A lot of people confuse thermometers with thermostats, but they're not the same thing. A thermometer tells you the temperature and just reads it. It shows you how hot or cool something is inside. A thermostat, on the other hand, controls the temperature. It regulates the heat source so it doesn't overheat or drop too low. When it comes to reptiles, you really need both. A reptile's price varies depending on species, morph, and breeder. Certain morphs can cost more. Buying from a reputable breeder is the best. But, again, compared to enclosure and lighting, the reptile itself often isn't the biggest financial commitment. The real investment is building the proper environment. Oh, I almost forgot. One cost beginners often forget is bulb replacement. UVB bulbs need to be replaced every 8 months to a year, even if they still light up. The UVB output decreases over time, and it affects your reptile's health. Heat bulbs also burn out eventually. Lighting isn't just about brightness, it's about proper function. This isn't a constant expense, but it's ongoing, and one of those hidden costs no one really talks about until you're already in it. Also something that people don't consider, time. Daily maintenance, feeder care, cleaning, monitoring temperatures, observing behavior. Time is part of the cost. Reptiles aren't set and forget pets. They rely entirely on you to maintain their environment. They also live very long, like 15 to 20 years. They're not low effort, they're just different effort. Now let's talk about one of the most important and most overlooked costs. Reptiles require exotic vets. Not every veterinary clinic treats reptiles, and exotic care can be more expensive. You should always be financially prepared in case something unexpected happens. If you're not prepared for an emergency vet care, you're not prepared for a reptile. That's just part of responsible ownership. Now let's talk about something people don't always expect. Feeders. Depending on the reptile you choose, you're not just feeding pellets from a bag. You're dealing with live insects or frozen rodents. If you have something like a leopard gecko or bearded dragon, that means live feeder insects. Crickets, mealworms, maybe dubia roaches. And it's not just a one-time purchase. That's ongoing. You're buying them regularly. And here's something people don't think about. If you have a leopard gecko, you're going to have crickets or insects living in a container somewhere in your house. That's just part of it. You have to feed them, keep their container clean, and make sure they stay alive until feeding time. Now, if you have a snake, that's a different kind of commitment. Most snakes eat frozen thawed rodents. That means you're going to have frozen mice or rats stored in your freezer. For some families, that's completely fine. For others, that's a serious conversation before getting a snake. Now, none of this is meant to be dramatic. It's just real. Reptile ownership means understanding what their diet looks like and being comfortable with it. Feeder insects and frozen rodents are not optional. They're a part of responsible care. and they're a part of cost, financially and practically. This conversation is usually the moment parents pause and say, "Wait, we're doing what?" But it's better to think about it ahead of time than be surprised later. Then there are the small things that add up. Cleaning supplies, substrate replacement, upgrading decor, replacing digital thermometers if they stop working, even small enrichment changes. None of these seem huge individually, but over time they add up. Reptiles thrive in clean, properly maintained enclosures, and maintaining an environment takes both money and effort. It's not one big expense, it's lots of small, responsible decisions. If you're prepared, reptiles can be incredible to care for. They're unique, fascinating, and they teach responsibility in a way that's different from other animals. But they're not impulse pets. Knowing the real cost ahead of time helps you make a thoughtful, responsible decision. The goal isn't to scare anyone, it's to be honest. If you own reptiles, what surprised you the most about the cost? And if you're considering getting one, what questions do you have? That's it for Scales and Tails. If you found this helpful, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more reptile content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.